talked about these verifying or proving trig identities problems. And I assigned 47 through 54. I'd like to start with questions. Does anybody have questions from homeworks? Now, I know that probably most of us haven't finished the homework by now, but I'd advise you to at least have started, because we're about halfway through this chapter. We haven't done something that we do every chapter, so you might want to be like acquainted with the homework in the not too distant future, because wink wink, I think you might know what's coming. Not the test.
Quiz.
Yeah.
You're going to give us the day off.
I am going to give you, if I had the power to give you the day off, boy, would I do it.
Why are they off?
I don't know. He said, you're going to give us the day off. And I was like, if I had that power, I would do it. Fortunately, that's above my pay grade, as they like to say. All right. Again, questions from 47 through 54. Does anybody have any they want to talk about? Going once. Going, Daniel. 54. Sure. All right, so if I'm looking at 54, Daniel, which side did you feel like you wanted to start with? So you might look at the right-hand side and say, okay, well, that's got two things. The left side has only one thing. And you're right that under our like loose definition of more complicated, the right side does appear to be more complicated. However, this is something that's in like factored form, right? So to go from the left or from the right to the left, I'm going to end up having to factor. What would I have to do to go from the left to the right then? What's the opposite of factoring? FOIL. Which one would you rather do? I'd rather FOIL too. So let's start on the left-hand side. Even though it is less complicated by our complicatedness definition, if I can avoid factoring, I'm going to choose to do that. Does that make sense? And you're good with how I looked at it and was able to determine that, oh, if I start on the right-hand side, I'm going to have to factor. I don't want to have to do that. So, all right. So when I have a squared around a parenthesis, remember that means that this is like two things multiplied together, right? When I have a squared around a set of parentheses, it means I have the two sets of parentheses multiplied together. So it's really a FOIL problem. Daniel, is it okay if I just FOIL this out in my head and write the number down?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope at this level that we feel pretty comfortable foiling on our own. Oops. Let's write it that way. Yikes. So far, so good. Now let's just take a peep at where we're at. I notice that, hey, that's some good news. I have that part. Bully for me. So somehow these two things have to give me just the x squared. So if I look at those two things, I notice that, hey, they both have an x squared in common. Let me factor that x squared out. And wait a tick. Sine squared plus cosine squared, I recognize that. That's P1. That's just 1. So 1 times x squared, that's just x squared. And howdy doody, look at that, I'm at the finish. Does that feel okay, Daniel?
Yeah.
Now, this was going to be much easier than trying to start with the right-hand side, because you'd have ended up with a tough time of thinking this. I'd have to think about x squared is x squared times 1, and then replace the 1 with sine squared plus cosine squared, and then factoring that, and it just like would be not a lot of fun. Much easier to have gone the route that we chose. Again, if you can avoid factoring, we should probably do that. Gab, what's up?
So you saw the two, like for the ones you highlighted, you saw the two that you could factor out. So you did that first.
So yeah, so that's this.
Okay, and then you have, that left over.
So that stuff I'm not going to touch because I'm supposed to have it, right?
Oh, okay.
That's supposed to be in the finish. So I'm just going to ignore it. Even though there's an x squared in it, I could have taken the x squared out of that too, but I don't want to do it because that part is supposed to be there in the end, so I'm not going to touch it. Does that feel good? So again, keeping an eye on where you're supposed to go, where we're trying to get to is really helpful, because as soon as you see a piece, it's like, oh good, I'm on the right track. I'm going to leave that part alone. Just what do I got left? Let's work with that stuff. And it becomes like a smaller problem all of a sudden, right? Daniel, you happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Not too bad, right? Assuming you made a good choice in the beginning. If you made a bad choice in the beginning, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Which would have been understandable. Others, questions? Which one? 50, sure. Now, Nick, which side would you want to work on here first?
Pretty tough choice.
Yeah, it is a pretty tough choice. So remember from the last problem, what does the squared on the outside of a parenthesis really mean? Yeah, so I'm just going to do like a double foil here. Is it okay if I don't write out like me writing the things next to each other and just foil it?
Yeah.
And I'll write times 2 because we're doing it for both sets. Oops. Woo! I got big. Now, if I look closely, I notice that I got -2 cosine times sine and a +2 cosine times sine. Those two will just add to give me 0. I notice that I have a positive cosine squared plus a positive sine squared. What's that going to give me? Yeah, it's P1. That'll just give me a 1. And if I look at what else do I have left then, I have a positive sine squared and a positive cosine squared. What's that give me? It's another P1, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what do I got? 1 plus 1, that's just 2.
Oh, it's fine.
And I'm done. That wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Assuming you made a good choice in the beginning and like foiled it out correctly. If you didn't foil it, if you did like, a plus b squared equals a squared plus b squared, oh my goodness gracious, you made a big mistake there. Feel good?
Yeah.
So again, like looked bad, but like there's not really any like first option is just probably just want to foil this thing out and see what I get. And it's like, oh goodness gracious, all I get is exactly what I need. Falls right out of there. Didn't have to even shake it too hard. Okay. In general, seems like we haven't gotten a big start onto the homework yet. Is that fair? Guess what we're going to do then today in class? You guys are going to work on the homeworks. So I'm going to assign you guys a random partner. You can work on, if you haven't started the 47 through 54 yet. So let's see, we had a couple absences. Vince is absent, and where is Valentina's absent? So Abby, Ethan, and Anthony, you guys are currently partnerless. You can either... Yeah, so hold on a second. The three of you guys are currently partnerless. You can either form a group amongst yourselves or join the group of your choice. Either is fine with me. So you're fine to join another group or make a group amongst you guys. Either is fine. I don't know. So you guys have been assigned 47 through 54. I'm now going to also assign 55 through 62 with your group.
Is this on our tablets or on?
This is just for homework, for like
is the homework on the tablet?
Yeah, you'll turn it in on OneNote. But you can write on paper and then take a picture and dump it into OneNote. That's fine.
This is chapter 5.
Yes.
What page is this?
It's, if you're just looking at the problems, it's
Chapter 5 problems. Okay.
Yeah. So it's these ones. All right. So again, you can work on 47 through 54. If you haven't finished that, you guys can work on that stuff together. If you finish that, or one of you has finished it, start on the 55 through 62. They don't really go in order of difficulty. If you see what to do, you see what to do. It's usually pretty easy. If you don't see what to do, it's usually kind of hard. It doesn't really, they're not like sequenced in any kind of order where like one is massively harder than the next one. They don't build in difficulty. It's fine. Start wherever. You guys have a common point of start. But get up, move around, sit next to your partner, and get moving. Be productive. Get some done. If you get stuck, come talk to me. I'm happy to